Good morning, LBC Radio. My name is Corey Rosen, and you're listening to The Story. Today, I have on a super awesome guest, but before we get into that, if you really want to support the show, please check out our shop. We have stickers here, and we have shirts and hoodies with the first 50 guests on the back. Today, I have on Mr. Don Grabowski. Don lives below Elizabethtown and has lived in Lancaster County all of his life. He has been a public school and university music educator for 33 years until 2013. Don was the director of bass studies at Millersville University for 18 years and has been an active bassist in jazz, symphonic, and chamber music. And as Hempfield High School director of orchestras, his orchestras were selected to perform at the PA Music Educators Conference twice, and is in his 13th year as adjudicator for Music in the Parks, or festivals of music, and has traveled and performed in parts of Austria, Germany, and Hungary, and since 2005 is a member of Allegro, the Chamber Orchestra of Lancaster. He has performed with other varied chamber music events, such as the Lancaster Opera Workshop and various jazz and rock ensembles. He has been found playing bass in the Hershey Theater Orchestra for traveling Broadway shows for stars like Jim Brickman, John Blake, and at the American Music Theater for Don Rickles, Frankie, Avalon, and Bobby Rydell. He is currently one of the bass players for LCBC Church, serving numerous area campuses. Don is the founder and owner of the online company Musicians Practice Glove. This is a glove for musicians who play under unique conditions and circumstances, sold on Amazon worldwide, Walmart, and Sweetwater Music. He has also been treasurer and board member of NAMI, Lancaster County, PA, for 6 years and served as a family-to-family teacher with his wife. Don also has been a member of Elizabethtown Rotary Club for over 8 years and is the past president from 2020 to 2021. Don and his wife have 3 grown boys and 2 grandchildren. You can find Don's work at his website, musicianslive.org, or his link tree, which is Musicians Practice Glove. Don, how are you doing today?
I'm just great. Thanks, Corey.
So I'm curious. That's a long resume.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, that's totally fine. That's great. That's great. I'm curious, what started it all as a kid? What got you inspired by music? What was it? An album? Was it your parents that just had a guitar around, or what was it?
Well, I'm one of 9 children. I have 5 older brothers, and 3 of them started a garage band, rock band. You know, back in the days, if you owned a set of drums, you could be in a band, no matter how you played. And you usually hosted the rehearsals at your house if your parents could stand it. But my 3 brothers formed the Rivals, and any listeners out there might remember them from the mid-'60s. And they even cut a record, and I was just so impressed with that as a kid, so I wanted to learn guitar. So first grade, second grade, I asked my older brother, can you show me some things? I want to play too. And sure enough, he showed me some chords. I picked it up quick. I started playing along with Creedence Clearwater Revival, and learned the chords to Lodi. Just about a year ago, oh Lord, stuck in Lodi. So that was just totally impressive to me. So they said, Donnie, they called me as a kid, we want you to come up on stage with us. We're playing at Liberty Fire Hall in New Holland. And this is now, I'm 8 years old, so this is now like 1966.
Wow!
So they have me come out on stage. I come out all nervous,
right?
And everybody's pointing and laughing. Look how cute and all that. It was just a feature just to lighten up things. And those were the days where the only music you could enjoy was either if you owned records. If your parents let you have records, or if you could afford them, or you'd go, to the local dances, high school age dances, and that was the source of music. So huge crowds would come to these things, and so Rivals were pretty successful for their day. And so I got to play guitar live, that song Lodi, and those were the days when Clare Brothers. Everybody knows that iconic name, started with just a Shure Vocal Master system with just the amp head with maybe 8 inputs, huge, and then two columns, one on each side, and so our family has got to know the Clares quite well, and like my brother bought one of their vans, a Jeep van from them, or a Corvair van, I think. So those were the days of early Clares and rivals. So that was my start with music, and then played saxophone in fourth grade while playing guitar, and went through the band program, chorus, and very active in the music department. And in fact, the only class I ever misbehaved in, excuse me, was music class.
Really?
It's the only time I ever got paddled. Yes. And people's like, what? Because I've taught music for 33 years. So, yeah, and I was just trying to be funny and cool with my friends.
Right,
and
of course.
So I was told you need to stand over here. I was like 7th grade maybe. Yep, and then I was playing with the light switch. I was just,
oh my goodness,
I was just really very naughty just for a period of time. Kids do that stuff.
Yeah.
And then so the teacher wasn't going to take anymore, and I totally deserved it. All right, so through then by 8th grade, playing guitar along with records, and I love this. And then I got together with some friends talking about let's form a band, but they all played guitar.
Oh,
so,
no.
Okay, somebody has to play bass. We have a drummer, we have a sax player, we have a trumpet, we have a trombonist. We wanted to do Chicago songs by Chicago. So I said, all right, I'll play the bass. So 8th grade, I grabbed a bass guitar, bought a cheapo thing at the local music store, and then started to learn bass. And we did Beginnings by Chicago, which was quite an aggressive thing to try to start with. But we pulled it off at our end of the year talent show in 8th grade. So that was my start. So by sophomore year of high school, I decided I think I want to make a career of music. And I had my brother by my junior year as my chorus director, music theory teacher. He had just graduated from Westchester University. Wow. And so he was a great mentor and an excellent teacher. Everybody loved him. He was there for 2 years, the 2 years I was there, as it turned out. So then I found a local teacher, Wes Fisher. A lot of musicians in the area know that name. And Wes was just a fabulous teacher to get me oriented to the double bass, classical literature, solo literature, and techniques and everything while I was playing bass guitar, and always having a foot in each side, the classical and then the pop culture stuff. And so then decided to major in music, and Westchester University was the choice. I auditioned at a couple of others, and just Westchester seemed like the fit. Very fine music department.
I'll say they have one of the better ones, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You basically can get a conservatory training. I'm not going to say it's on the level of the big names, Juilliard and Eastman, but that definitely was a great choice because I'm one of 9 kids, and my mother was filling out forms, for government, assistance,
right.
All of student loans, student grants, and so that was the way I was able to hit, to go through college. I paid for my lessons myself, $5 a half hour.
Wow.
And this was back, what was it, 1973, I guess.
Still.
Around, yeah. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm that old, but then those lessons were what really, got me going. And then I was successful as a bass major, even a voice major. I did that, so I was a double major, and halfway through college, and I decided just to throw myself fully into bass. So that's my musical start.
Well, there you go. So I'm curious, what was it like as a kid to come? And it sounds like you guys didn't have much sibling rivalry as much.
The fact that we could get along.
Yeah. And you asked your brother, "Hey, can you teach me guitar?" And he's like, "Get out of here,"
No, he was a great brother. My brother Joe, and he's the one that got me going. I'm getting a little choked up just thinking about him because he's right now not in a good place. mental health hit him. It's been pretty rampant in my family, and unfortunately, just it's the genes that get passed down.
Yeah.
But he, a great musician, and so but yeah, we pretty much got along as kids. The usual rival,
Right.
Pinning one down and say uncle kind of stuff.
Right, of course.
Yeah, naturally.
So, but what was it like as kids to put together a band, and then how did you guys? I guess you guys didn't go gigging around. It was more of just high school dances or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So we did pretty much like someone would have a party, and then, hey, we'd like you guys to play at our party. Like in someone's private home. Sometimes they had like Rich Landis was the keyboard player. He had a Farfisa organ, and that's a name from the past of music equipment. And they had a farm, and then they had a barn. So the barn was the instant venue for the show. We didn't call it a show. We just said, we're going to play. And everybody, come on, and you can dance, you can listen, whatever. We started getting into all kinds of more experimental music, And of course, we did Chicago. We did, one is the loneliest number that you ever knew. And that's, Three Dog Night and Blood, Sweat, and Tears. We even did some Rolling Stones, and I shudder when I think we did Sympathy for the Devil. It's like, oh, man, why did we do that? Look, they had to kind of, certain member of the band, thought that was cool. We want to be cool. But then things kind of escalated when attending a church in Lancaster, and this one organist named Vince DiCola was there, and I was so blown away with his talent. I had to go up and talk to him. I knew he was about my age. I was going to a Lancaster Catholic High School, and he said, "Yeah, I really love playing like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Yes, really progressive prog rock. We call it progressive, and then and that was sort of in its infancy, but also pop culture, rock, and commercial music, and let's form a cover band." So we did. Right. And Jerry Reeser was the singer in that, and in fact, he and I serve at LCBC. He's a great keyboard player. So we had a band called Blue Water Band, and by then the drummer was also their family owned a mill, a big area for a dance and for a show and for a party and that kind of thing. So that's how we're able to get things going. So this guy, Vince DiCola, went on, he moved to the West Coast and became very, very popular. And back in, I don't know, I'm just going to guess, the early 90s, he wrote the score for Rocky III.
What?
So, yeah,
that's how I knew that name. Oh, my gosh.
You know that name?
Really? Well, yeah, because I love listening to scores.
Get out.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I was like, that rings a bell. But
so he got to work, with, of course, Frank Stallone, and then
that's so cool.
And Frank's brother, Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone, Frank Stallone, yeah.
And Frank Stallone is Sylvester's brother, who was really a singer, and so Vince wrote like one or two songs or co-wrote, was all part of that, and some really cool stuff like the training montage, So just while we're on Vince DiCola, a lot of people in Lancaster know that name big time. So he and I connected when I took the position at Hempfield High School, and we had him come as an artist in residence, and we did some of his originals, and I rescored one of his orchestral works, and we performed that, and then we in another one of his works, beautiful lush string thing with piano solo, and then another part of the weekend event, so that we had a Sunday concert, our regular Hempfield High School orchestra concert. Then Friday night previous, we put together a band and rehearsed like crazy. My brother, my sister, vocals, Dick Ranke, lead vocal, a really big name in the music scene in Lancaster. This is going back like to the 70s, 80s. and we did some of Vince's stuff from Rocky 3, and we did some other stuff, and Vince like wrote this great arrangement of Beatles: A Day in the Life, tunes like that. So that those are just some really neat memories. So that was sort of the spin-off much later of our early days as kids in high school.
Right. Yeah, that's wild to me that your first stage performance was at 8 years old. Was it with a full size electric guitar?
Oh no, I had a little like 3/4 size electric. It was a knockoff of a Fender Telecaster, and I still remember the brand name. It was Winston.
Winston, never heard of that one.
Go figure that one out.
Yeah, right.
If you have a Winston guitar out there, I would love to see it. I might buy it from you just as a memento of my first instrument. So I have no idea what happened to that instrument. Of course, I then bought a Fender jazz bass by my senior year of high school, and that was it's a 1965 Fender jazz bass, and of course I had to sell it to move up. So I thought back in the mid '90s to get my current 5-string Tobias bass, which is my go-to bass guitar.
Awesome. So for college, what was some of your experiences with college, and how did that shape you or mold you into the player you are today?
Sure. So senior year high school, I actually formed a band with my brother, where we formed a funk band together. And this was now the mid 70s, and so disco and funky music, Earth, Wind and Fire, Tower of Power.
Yeah.
Then there's the more pop culture, Casey and the Sunshine Band, Get Down Tonight. Celebrate good times.
Yeah,
come on, Cool and the Gang, and all of those, it's all about dancing, and the band was called Orion, and a lot of people in Lancaster, you kind of know that name, Lancaster area. If you're age 60 and above, probably can recall going to a dance, because we would do proms, we did the outdoor dances in the summer at the Neffsville Park back in the mid 70s, and we would played the Village a couple times, and just various venues all around the area. Did quite a bit of traveling too, So those, but that was great training for me as a musician. So I did that my freshman and I think my sophomore year of college. So I just had to step away from that. Then the bar scene started to really be a drag. So, and I was really trying to stay founded in my faith at that point, especially senior year of high school. But I just wanted to use my gifts, but it was time to just walk away from that scene. It wasn't for me,
right?
And just get real serious about music education. So throughout. Of course, playing in the orchestra at Westchester, being in the concert choir, and just being a whole immersed in the whole music world. The ear training, and just really honing my skills, practicing hours on end in the practice room, double bass, piano. There's piano requirements and vocal things. So the School of Music was just really huge for me. And it just opened up a whole world of other musicians, like Ken Levinsky, who's the son of Walt Levinsky, who was the lead alto player on The Tonight Show back in the mid 70s, late 70s, early 80s.
That's incredible.
And I met Ken at Lebanon Valley College when I went to a summer jazz camp for a week when I was, I think, a junior in high school. I just thought, hey, summer, I got to do some music experiences. And and just meeting people like that, and he ended up being the keyboard player in this funk band, and then he brought with him Steve Kolonak, who was a great saxophone player, and he was part of the band as well. And they would travel from North Jersey down to play in our band, and we had an awesome lead singer and a drummer. They were both African American, and we just had a feel and a groove. It was just so fun, But yeah, so during that time, then, of course, being in college, you really need to focus on that. And,
college,
and make that your focus. You're there to. And so by my senior year, I was ready to settle down. Met my wife right around that time, and things progressed, and engaged, married by December of 1980, and that was when I had my first teaching job at Lampeter Strasburg High School as choral director, just for a year. But right about that time, I was interested in possibly playing full time. So I was not sure if I wanted to teach full time. So during that first year, I took an audition. One of my when I was in college, I was in the jazz band, the Criterions, and it was quite an honor to be in that. I played bass from my freshman year to junior year, and in fact, we just had our a reunion concert just last night. It just happens to be. So today's the 22nd?
22nd?
Yeah,
Yeah, 22nd, yeah.
Yeah, so just last night, Thursday, July 21, we rehearsed Wednesday afternoon, and then most of the day, Thursday, and we played some charts, and these guys are amazing players. The one guy is right on the level of Maynard Ferguson, and the drummer was really good, and there were two bass players, and we shared the charts, and I mean, it was a heavy-hitting band, and it was just huge, and big, pretty sizable audience there at Phillips Auditorium, if anybody knows the Westchester area, and it was an open concert to all, and that was such a great experience. Playing with all of these monster musicians, it's just, whoa, this is just, wow, I'm loving it. So I played upright on some tunes, like the typical 40s swing kind of style, and then electric for like the funk stuff and popping and, and so on. But back to college, this guy, Don New, went to play with the Airmen of Note. It's the Air Force Jazz Band, killer band. And in fact, a couple other musicians from the Criterions at Westchester that went to that band as well. I mean, the Criterion started in the early 30s. So they were like one of the first, probably the first schools of music or, music departments in that day. In the nation, probably that started really kicking in, the whole big band scene, the whole jazz scene. Yeah. So that kind of helped put Westchester up front. Yeah, on the map with getting, hey, let's go with, let's get current. Let's make this, let's open up and have a wider range of opportunities for our students. And it's like, so that's been kind of what they've done for years. So high regard for Westchester. So I took the audition with the Airmen of Note. That was a great, I mean, those are like the best players in the nation.
Yeah, I just want to say, some of the military bands, if you haven't watched a military band routine, do it. Yeah. You're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, that I didn't make get the part, but just, preparing for it and just that experience. Yeah,
being with them.
Someone else got it. Yeah, and which was fine because that's all part of, you got to nudge a door and, and see, give it a shot and see, just trying to figure out life and figure out what your place is. And, but then I realized that I'm going to stay in teaching. This is what I want to do. I love sharing and touching the future. There's all those sayings. I touch the future, I teach, and those things. But it's true, as corny as it sounds. And just the number of students that I know, I've helped a little bit with getting them on the path in their life, like I wanted to do. And yeah, so then I went to Manham Township. I was in I did the chorus there, music theory and music electives, but at the same time as doing elementary music, the orchestra, specifically strings, but also classroom, even like little kindergartners. I'd bring my guitar in and we'd do songs with the little kids. The kids loved it. And it was a great time, and we were just married. And then we, started having children, and then Manham Township. I went from there. I decided to go all orchestra, and then I went up to near Harrisburg, Central Dauphin School District, where it was middle school and elementary strings, and I did that for a good 12 years, and then so that's how my teaching career moved along. So right around the end of that, around 1995, was when I finished a master's degree. As I wanted to pursue, and I was at Westchester, in fact, wanted to pursue maybe the next level, and then I was asked to come on board at Millersville to teach, to be the instructor of bass studies, and there We had bass guitar students coming in who never played classical orchestra or anything like that, and it just opened up the world of orchestral music to them, and that just really inspired me to see them start to love playing in an orchestra when all they've done was bass guitar up until then. And then the music industry studies was kind of what drew the bass guitar players to Millersville, to then give them a well-rounded education in everything bass and just music in general. So I have high regard for Millersville University as well, because during my time there, I saw the department churn out, how about produce,
yeah.
some really excellent teachers, musician educators.
I know a lot of great musicians that's all from Millersville.
Yeah. So back when I was looking at music schools in 1975, Millersville was just really getting it together, and I saw, wow, this could really go. I chose Westchester because it was already well established, but then to see Millersville grow like that, it was just really exciting, and they're really neck and neck with Westchester, perhaps, but I'm not going to judge that.
Fair enough. Well, throughout your college career, what is one thing that do you have any regrets not doing, or do you have any advice for musicians who are in college?
Well, definitely you want to get piano background when you're in high school. If you're thinking about going into music, because there's so many things regarding piano, just it enters into every area of music. Seeing harmony, seeing vertical structures. Understanding chord progressions, getting that early on is great. Understanding scale construction, just so many aspects. So when I was a junior, I had graduated from high school, starting music school, and I realized I don't have much piano background, so I got to do something. So I had a friend whose mother gave piano lessons, so I took some crash course. I had her teach me like once, twice a week, basic scales and sight reading. So that would be one big thing, is get that piano background, and of course, most importantly is you need to have a specific instrument, that to major in music, and of course now, back when I was in the mid '70s, there was really no guitar major anywhere. And bass, and the only bass major was classical, and that's when I knew I needed to really get my skills and get myself to be a double bass player in an orchestra as soon as possible. But now, as a guitar player or whatever instrument, you can major in music industry, but still the focus is to be a great musician. So any ear training you can do, there are tons of online resources.
Oh, yeah.
And to develop your ear, because number one, you're a musician, and everything else you do stems from that.
And just hearing your story, one advice I would give is take full advantage of everything your college offers, because you met some incredible people because you went to college. Not only did you go to college, but you took advantage of everything that was there.
Yeah.
And I, from my past experience and knowing other friends, there is a lot that this college offered that I was not aware of, or I just like, I don't need that. And you miss out on a lot.
Right.
And so definitely be sure to take it within reason. Make sure your studies come first, but take advantage of everything that your school offers,
and just be careful that you're not too involved with a job or making money. If you maybe have a relative who can assist you, and of course there's financial needs. My heart goes out to you. I had a financial need somehow. I didn't have to work full time. I was playing in the band on weekends my freshman, sophomore year, but after that, summer jobs when I wasn't in school, I just busted my tail working, factory, warehouse work, whatever. So just as much as you can, free yourself up, and like Corey just said, make available any opportunities and every opportunity that you possibly can get involved with.
Because you only got 4 or so years to do it, and after that, you're an alumni.
That's right.
Or
And,
hopefully.
and then you gotta, you have opportunity now. You have to do a career and work full time.
Yeah.
And then, you fall in love and all kinds of
All sorts of stuff happens
boom,
very
life,
quickly.
Life happens fast.
Very quickly. So, what you started music education. At what point did you decide? Because you have a business called the Musicians Practice Club.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you come up with that idea?
Sure. So, of course, teaching, for 33 years, there came a point that I realized, okay, it's time. A family issue with taking care of one of our family members, assisting them toward getting on the path to wellness, and I needed to make myself available for that. That was one of the things that drove it. But also, I realized, okay, I'm going to step aside and let someone else have a career doing what I've loved doing. I mean, there were days that I could say, man, I get paid to do this. This is such a thrill. This is great. Then there are the other days.
This is my only source of income.
Like any job,
Right.
Has its awesome things and then others. But definitely the awesome things outweigh.
Yeah.
For sure. So I was happy to step aside, and at that time Harrisburg was in some dire straits with funding, and I thought, well, if I retire, that'll open up more funds,
Right.
I guess that's an idea. Yeah. So then at that point, I was teaching private students out of my home, maybe 5 or 6, but I thought, okay, I have this time, and I think I'm going to just really practice like crazy. And there was an opening in Harrisburg Symphony for assistant principal bass player in Harrisburg. I played Lancaster Symphony in the earlier days when Gunzenhauser was just getting started, and then my teaching job just totally took over, and I wasn't able to continue playing. But then in the last, since '05, I think is as you read in my bio, Allegro Orchestra of Lancaster, fabulous orchestra. Brian Norcross, can't say enough of positive, amazing things about that guy, how he relates to an audience, and Allegro Orchestra of Lancaster. And so I had a chance to continue playing there, but okay, there's this audition coming up, and I have a lot of possible free time that I could get into it. But most importantly, I knew I probably wouldn't make the audition because there's these young powerful players coming out of Curtis and Eastman and Juilliard and maybe Westchester, and it's like, okay, one of those will probably get it, but I'm going to push myself as now a 56-year-old, and I'm going to take the time and work my butt off and practice 4 or 5 hours a day to prepare all the orchestral literature. Because any musician out there who's in the School of Music right now knows all about, there is the standard orchestra audition list for your instrument.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's like these are the pieces you need to study and know. And for the Harrisburg Symphony audition, most of them were on there. I mean, some really tough stuff, but it was good for me to have a challenge. But the only issue is after 2 hours, my fingertips started to get pretty raw feeling, even though I've had calluses, for 50 years, 45 years. And so, man, how am I going to play another 2 hours? And I heard about a guy in the UK, Scott Devine, who actually uses a glove. And I kind of heard about that. I believe my good friend Craig Libhart, who's a fellow bass player and a fine pianist, keyboardist, LCBC musician too, and he and I met for some bass. He was he had questions. I gave him some tips and stuff, and learned from each other. And he told me about this guy Scott Devine, and I went online, and he was using a glove, and that gave me an idea. I think I'm going to use a glove. So I went out into our garage, and we have the stash of winter, scarves and hats. And usually when you can buy a scarf hat set, and it has this little Mickey Mouse gloves, a pair of gloves, usually with in it. and it's like about half the size of my hand,
Right.
but it stretches. And I thought, well, this fits good enough because I couldn't use like a typical winter, leather
mitt
or
yeah.
glove or anything like that. So I grabbed that and it made of cotton, and I played, and I can play with a glove on my just the left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And the trouble is the cotton wore out like in about an hour.
Probably fray a lot too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And cotton is not meant,
Not
for
meant
that.
for that. Yeah.
No. So then I thought there's got to be a material. Let's see. How about nylon? So nylon, I looked online and navigated to companies, and it ended up being China was the place where you could easily order, like 10 trial or samples. So those were sent to me, and I used 2, and it's like nylon. This is awesome. It wicks moisture, it breathes with you. It's a cooling effect, and it's like, whoa, I can get around my bass even faster and easier, and then it doesn't wear out, and my fingertips I can play for 10 hours. I can play all day, forever. So, but at the same time, I knew I wanted to keep my calluses, so I'll play without the glove for a while and then play with it just for the endurance, And I thought, I wonder if other people are looking for this. So I put the other 8 on eBay. At the time, I had an eBay account because I've been a vinyl collector for quite a while. So I've been selling and buying vinyl because I just love the sound of vinyl, and I especially have a lot of old classical and jazz vinyl, some that's quite valuable. So that's been sort of a fun thing, and being able to listen to all the great stuff, So
Right.
So I put these 8 gloves on eBay, and they sold like within 48 hours. Yeah,
Wow.
and I thought, okay, there's people looking for this. Okay, I'm just gonna contact this company. I'll just order 5,000 pairs, and just ordered white, and I had them put the logo on, and there's a tag inside of it, inside of the wrist cuff, with our website, and 100% cotton, made in China. That's pretty much the industry standard you have to do. Excuse me.
You mean 100% nylon?
Yeah, it is 100%. Excuse me. So then I put those online on eBay, and also you could order from the website. So then at that point, people were starting to really buy them up, and it's like, this is interesting. But then I had a lot of requests. Can you do colors? Black, tan was the obvious choice, because some people may want to use it live and not want to be discovered as, hey, they're using a glove. Well, what's
they're
that?
cheating.
Yeah, right. You should play till your fingers bleed.
Right.
Like that song, Summer of '69. How does that go? I got my first real 6 string.
Play it to my fingers. Something like that.
Yeah, or I should lower the key. I got my first real 6 string, bought it at the 5 and dime, played it till my fingers bled, or something like
exactly. That's exactly how it
but
goes.
But my question for Bryan Adams, who did that song, is, okay, so what did you do after your fingers bled? Did you keep playing?
Right.
Did your fingers hurt?
What happened to your strings?
So right. Now you got to buy a new set of strings. So now just put Band-Aids on, or just little something pads on your fingertips that have just bled, and then put the glove on and keep playing, that kind of thing.
So you have some of them here.
I do. I do. So as it turned out, then people started to love the idea of using a black glove, whatever your skin tone, and so Caucasian people started using a black glove. And if you want skin tone, you can do that. And then, of course, naturally, I have white, as I still have white. So once we started doing colors, and I was thinking, is there a U.S. company that can do this without having to constantly source from China?
And wait for however long it takes to get
that,
here.
And of course, we want to buy U.S.,
right.
buy American. And I couldn't find a company that would do colors and do the kind of quality. I got samples, but they were just white, and the quality wasn't even close. So at this point, we're still ordering from China. So then it fast forward, then it continues to grow. And then I realized we got to go on Amazon, and I knew we had to go global. And that's when multiple countries in Amazon, I learned, how to list, how to, there's so many aspects of the whole Amazon world. So that's when it really started to blow up and become pretty big. I mean, we're not making a lot of money, but it's just the best part is it's meeting a need, people who play under unique circumstances and situations. So one of them is if you have an outdoor gig in cold weather. For example, we have some customers who play in Europe in the winter season and ski resorts in the French Alps.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
that kind of place.
It's a little cold.
Yeah. But I mean, they'll have like these
the heat lamps.
The lamps, the down heaters and stuff, but there's still going to be some cold breezes blowing through. And then people might have arthritis. So like if you're in air conditioning playing on stage, and there's cold air piling down on you, and if you have
your fingers are going to get
they can
weird.
Yeah, they get stiff, and don't respond as normal, so it is a warming effect, so there's all kinds of reasons, and I don't want to go into an ad for this is Musicians Practice Club, and I call it Musicians Practice Club because it's a little more of a user-friendly way of putting it, because I'll just use it for practice, but I'm not going to play with it because I don't want to be seen playing with a glove. And it could be controversial, that kind of, what are you playing with a glove for?
Right.
But it's more now becoming an understanding that it's possible if you see someone playing with a glove, they've got a medical condition.
Right.
We're not going to make fun of them.
No.
So and one of the typical medical conditions is hyperhidrosis.
What?
Super sweaty hands.
So, that's what I have.
Really?
Yeah, I struggle with that a lot, actually. Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. Yeah.
My hands are always sweaty. I hate it.
Oh.
But and why is that a problem for people who play guitar or bass?
Sure. So when you play after a while and the sweat gathers on the string, of course, there's the rust. It rusts strings because of the salt content in your sweat, and also then there's skin flakes off, dust gets on your strings and sticks to it if you didn't wipe them down properly, and then there's underneath the string, and so it can get kind of
icky,
kind of messy. Yeah, and you don't have to change guitar strings as often, so guitar string companies aren't real happy about this.
Well,
maybe, but yeah, and then. The idea of just having moisture on your hands and then moisture in the back of the neck, and you're trying to shift and so like when you play outdoor gigs in the summer, these actually have a cooling effect for that reason. So it wicks moisture as well as it it absorbs the moisture, and then of course it has that cooling effect that it's real comfortable. And after a while, I've just started just playing with it almost all the time. I'll maybe play at a rehearsal for a while without it, and then I'll put it on. It's so comfortable. It's just really natural feeling,
That's awesome. You mind if I try one?
Please, yeah. Let's get you to open one. Let's see. Here, put your left hand up, and you would be a large.
Large, yeah.
Well, you know what? This one might work for you. It is extra large, but we'll go ahead and let you give it a shot here.
Is it only left hand? Do you guys make right hand?
Well, that's the interesting thing is early on I thought, well, it's going to cut down costs and kind of be a little easier. Now, are you a left-handed guitar player?
I am barely a guitar player.
Oh, okay, all right.
But the reason why I didn't ever play this, this feels exactly like the percussion glove that we would use for band.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day,
okay,
yeah. These are really nice. I usually hate things on my hands. That's why I don't wear rings. I don't wear watches.
Yeah.
I hardly wear gloves except for the marching stuff because you kind of had to.
All right.
And this feels really nice, actually. Yeah.
Oh, neat.
But the reason why I didn't play guitar was because of the callus building and because my fingers just got raw immediately. And I'm like, I can't be bothered to go through this every hour, and then I can't use my hands for anything else.
Wow.
Because they would be indented And whenever I like touch the keyboard, whether it be my piano or the computer, it would just, oh wow, yeah, these are cooling too. I can feel it.
See that?
Yeah. Breathe. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Moisture wicking and cooling effect. Yeah, and you just hit another one of like the 20 reasons why the glove exists is for beginner guitar players.
Yeah.
And you have certain material you want to go through for preparation for your guitar teacher. And after 20 minutes of your first week or two of playing, it's like, and a lot of, the beginner guitars aren't set up that the action is like the playability is not great. The frets may not be honed,
right,
things like that, so it's easily overlooked. So grab a glove, play a little while, start to build your calluses, and then finish your material with the glove on. Next day, no glove, build your calluses, finish the material with your glove on.
I just realized why you said it if I was a right-handed guitar player, because I put it on the wrong hand.
Yeah, you had one on your left, and that's where we put the logo is on the top of the left hand. So
that's as I was like, oh, that's weird. It's in the
yeah, but it does if you do then have a pair, because I do have bass players tell me hey, they use it for both hands, and it is kind of funky with the logo in the palm of your hand,
right.
But when they're playing outdoors,
fine.
Yeah,
on the wrong hands.
Yeah.
That's
and you can keep it by all
really?
means. Yeah,
thank you so much.
Really, of course.
That's
Yes. So you can do it on either hand. And like when I played last night for this Criterion's reunion, by the end of the night, we rehearsed all day, and I was really digging in a lot, and these fingers were getting pretty sensitive. If I would have had to play another hour, I probably would have put a glove on my right hand.
Oh my!
But some bass players like the sound of the glove on their right hand.
Yeah, I wonder if it changes the tone at all. Would it make it warmer, or does it make it
like a rounder, kind of maybe warmer? I'm not sure exactly, but okay. For example, Grand Ole Opry in Nashville.
Yeah.
Mitchell Brown is one of our customers, and he's an upright player.
Yeah.
And in fact, on our website, you can see a picture of him playing the bass. Each hand, and he uses a black glove, and that's the part of his signature sound, and he loves it.
That's incredible. I wonder. I've always wondered this because I haven't played guitar long. But do you ever get if for finger picking? Do you ever get calluses on your other hand at all?
Probably. There's a little nail action involved in that too.
Is there?
With picking, and if you see somebody who has longer fingernails on his or her right hand, or the picking hand, whatever the picking hand is, depending on which, they might be a classical guitarist.
Really?
Yeah. It's not uncommon at all.
Because my immediate thought when with hands and guitar, fingernails need to be cut.
Right.
Need to be.
Yeah, just like on piano keys.
Oh, absolutely.
String instrument.
Yeah, I'm really bad at keeping my nails under control. But I whenever I start playing piano and since I have gigantic hands, they have to be really trimmed, or else the slightest bit, I'm like, oh well, now I'm playing two keys that I shouldn't be playing.
Yeah. Now, what was that you said about hands? I misunderstood.
Sorry. What was I saying? Well, I was saying like if my fingernails are too long, I will accidentally hit another key.
Okay, as a keyboard player.
As a keyboard player,
so
yeah.
Is that your main instrument?
That's my main instrument. Yes.
I didn't know that.
But I play keys. I want to play guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I play bass a little bit.
Okay.
Not anywhere near proficiency. If you give me a chord chart, I'll figure it out. But besides
good.
that, good luck. But
wow.
But yeah, and I've like I said, I really have wanted to learn guitar, but the inhibiting factor was the calluses. But a lot of people would say, well, that calluses are the point. What would be your argument against that?
Calluses
are like the point of practice.
Well, what's interesting is the glove's thin enough you can still keep your calluses. I've not lost them, and but some people like the skinned to string feel.
Right.
So hey, go for it. And there are times that I enjoy that too. But the calluses, of course, give you the endurance, and you want to build them too. And so there's different different schools of thought. But if you get a cut on your finger,
Good luck.
and and you try to play, and then you sweat, and salt gets in it, and it stings, and all. So this is a relief factor for that situation, So, but yeah, I mean, calluses are great, and I mean, I have calluses on these fingers for upright digging in and playing bass guitar, 2-3 fingers, and I enjoy the bearskin feel and the sound, So in that case, calluses on my right hand I desire, but on my left I keep the calluses. But the glove for me, I'm able to get around, as I say, it's a lot of real estate to cover on the upright bass because it's a 42-inch string, whereas bass guitar is 34 inches. 8-inch difference, quite a lot, and guitar is maybe 30 inches. I really don't know.
Right.
But just getting around the instrument is the real joy that I feel when I use a glove. It's this freedom that I didn't have before.
Probably a lot smoother going up and down the neck too,
That's
because it is nylon and it's not skin that could be really wet or really dry.
Yeah.
So it's probably a lot smoother of a transition between chords.
Takes
and all
a little
that
getting
jazz.
used to.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Just like anything.
Yeah, and there is a guy called Guitar Geek who any guitarists out there may know of that name, where he tries products new on the market.
I've seen him. Yeah,
you're kidding. Yeah, and Andy, his name is, and he took our product and was, what's this guitar glove? And what this is, it is hilarious. But as his review goes on, his video on it, and he starts, hey, this really works. I'm impressed, and and it doesn't mute strings like when you do specific chords. Yeah, like certain chord shapes, you need to have open strings ringing, and it doesn't mute them. And he's like, this really works, and it really provides protection. And I can see if you have medical things or certain circumstances, including outdoor gigs, that can be anybody, medical issues or not. And Andy Ferris, and in fact, he's now producing a little blurb, endorsing the glove. When he was a skeptic at first, and,
right?
So we've been in touch a lot. I have a shirt that says Guitar Geek on it, and
awesome.
I bought his shirt, and to support his stuff, and it's really good. Another big name, Scott Devine, the one I mentioned. I heard back in the beginning that he uses a glove. My friend Craig, who told me about him, and I went to him maybe 4 years ago and sent him a bunch of gloves, and he said, this is the best thing I've ever experienced. I have used all kinds of gloves, merino wool, however you say that, all different kinds of gloves and silk and so on, and he is a customer. He buys them in large amounts, and he has a following of, 30,000 people in his bass school. If you want to learn bass guitar, Scott's Bass Lessons is by far, they can take you from the very beginning to the most highest end advanced playing you could ever want, and they have a school of bass, all online, lessons, tracking, they can analyze your playing, do a live video instruction, and the membership is really reasonable. There's a lot of free lessons you can get, and he gets asked that question all the time. Why does he wear a glove? So he has something called focal dystonia. It's where there's a scrambled message between your brain and your fingers. This is like the easy,
layman's terms.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
And the fingers twitch like that. And then he puts the glove on. There's a slight amount of compression.
Yes, it fits.
You feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it should be like a second skin. And then it totally calms his hand, and he's an awesome monster, world-class bass player, and he can play again. So having him endorse it, and he there's a written endorsement on our website naturally, but just what a great guy. He's so fun, so humorous, a little off color on occasion, but it's just hilarious and so fun. The guests he has on, and it just continues to grow. It is a monstrous bass resource that every bass guitar player, and it's just bass guitar. Well, okay, mostly. There occasionally, like John Patitucci will come on and do some upright
John Patitucci.
Yeah, you know that name?
Yeah.
Really?
He's a big name. And
Oh, huge.
Yeah, huge name, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're talking world-class
right,
stuff.
Yeah, world-class stuff. Yeah, right.
I mean, the bass players for any, whether it's metal, whether it's jazz, whether it's pop culture, Stevie Wonder, soul.
Right, it's him.
Anybody still living, he has on his show, and they give lessons, and they give all kinds of tips on every topic you can imagine. Should it be a Fender jazz bass or a precision bass? Comparing the two, just tons of ScottsBassLessons.com. It's that easy.
That's incredible. And you also said that this helps with arthritis.
Yeah. So, for example, I have a friend at a church that's maybe 70, 75, another church, and he has been buying them because they totally warm his hands, and he is much more fluid in his fingering, and especially like on an early Sunday morning,
Yeah.
and especially on a winter day
when everything is cold.
For sure.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like because being in a marching band, we were out in the fall and in the winter, and your instruments are cold.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so cold, in fact, that we spend a good 30 minutes before our football show or the field show just to warm them up.
Yes.
And if I'd argue that that's probably why you perform during the actual football game is that it stays warm.
Yeah.
Because it is, especially on your fingers, it is a pain to touch. Imagine touching cold metal with your fingers and your lips. In freezing weather, in this, oversized band uniform, stuff that it's not fun at all. So it is crazy, especially with people like growing old, and arthritis becomes a real problem for musicians. My dad, he was a really awesome local drummer in Salisbury, Maryland.
Okay,
So it's far away.
Sure.
But he can barely play drums. He also has cerebral palsy. I'm sure that impacts him somehow.
Yeah.
But he was a really great drummer. Now he struggles with his wrists because he's using so much outside in the cold and everywhere else. It's gotten to the point where it's harder to play drums than he might as well just practice and not play.
I wonder if compression. There's actual compression gloves that I think go the whole way down the wrist. That could be of assistance. And,
I wonder.
That would be a thought.
It'd be a thought for sure. I'll have to suggest that to him.
Well, you mentioned marching bands, so that's an area that we have not really at all entered into. Now, the usual marching band gloves are cotton.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And
they wear off quickly.
Yeah. And they can, of course, if it's hot, if you're playing in the heat, which of course football season, the beginning of football season,
at least,
can be
for sure,
stifling hot, like the weather we had yesterday, for example, and today's pretty hot too. But using these, I really wonder how marching bands might be able to benefit. And it just so happens I was at Westchester yesterday, and the Westchester Golden Rams Marching Band.
Yeah.
Have you heard of them?
I was actually, I wanted to go to Westchester for their marching because I was a drum major in band as well.
You were? Cool.
Yeah, and
whoa, you got a lot of great musical background. Cool.
Yeah. So I was either Westchester but then I was like, that seems too unattainable for me.
Oh.
But then, and for whatever reason, I just didn't follow up with it, and somehow, I came here.
Got it.
I got this opportunity.
I know what you're saying.
Right, of course. Marching. So you were at the marching band?
So, what it is when I was there, and the marching band camp is the following week, and the week I was there, it was jazz band camp for high school kids. So, as I told you, I was at Hempfield High School for a good 18 years. And my last 5 years, I was on staff with Adam Gumble, who Mr. Gumble, now Dr. Gumble. He was able to eventually become the marching band director at Westchester, and
that's awesome.
a good friend, and I gave him a whole bunch of gloves. And in fact, our company from China has been making some mistakes, and they undersized thousands of them. I mean, we're ordering, like
Giant bulk, right?
yeah, like 12,000 pairs, 20,000 pairs. It depends. So I had like 1,500 gloves that were undersized, and I said, "Hey, just take them if you can use them somehow. Give them out to other marching bands, and I'd be curious to see what they think. Free gloves, because otherwise, I shudder to think of it. I have to throw them out because it's just a lot of work to try to repackage them, saying these are undersized one size,
Right.
whatever. It's like I'd rather, give them away,
and maybe gain some exposure through that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be ambitious and assuming or anything, but once again, this whole thing started based on a need, and just if we can recover our expenses, which we are, and making some profit, but wherever it goes, hey, wherever it goes.
So people can find this on Amazon. They can.
Yes, sir.
They can find this at and they're relatively cheap too, aren't they?
Yeah, $10, $9.99 for black and tan, and $8.99 for white. Man, this sounds like a commercial. I'm sorry.
No. This is
Well, you asked. All right.
I did ask.
And then a pair you save a little. A pair is like $18.
And so please do check out his website. Is it the Musicians Practice Glove on Linktree, or is that where they can buy them, or is it musicianslive.org?
Right. If you go to musicianslive.org, then you can get to the Linktree right there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and there's a whole list of all of the links, including Sweetwater, which we're very excited about them taking that
is
on.
The music spot for anything.
And it's all online. So you have Sweetwater, and they have just great customer service. And then, of course, eBay, we're phasing that out. But but we're on all the Amazons worldwide. So the way that we do that, anybody who's maybe somebody listening is selling on Amazon now, or you have a product that you think could really go, and the best way to do it's not easy to get into Amazon to become a seller, but we got on board 5 years ago, and maybe it's harder now. I really don't know. Of course, they're happy to take your money because they get 50%, basically, maybe 40%, depending on if you do use the advertising program that they have called pay-per-click. But the big thing is you can send your units of your product to the Amazon warehouses and have them do the fulfillment,
shipping, and all that jazz.
You got it, yeah. So you prepare the units, box them. And there's software that takes you through all that and put the labels on and so on. And then and that's a big part of the work that we do, our small crew. So you're able to have a small crew doing this. And so then, like Japan, we just sent a shipment there. And then, of course, they're doing all the fulfillment. A person in Japan that has Prime, Amazon Prime, can get their product, get their glove within a day or two, depending. And then we're in the UK, we're in all through the EU, from Poland to Germany, and then, of course, Canada and UK, I said, Singapore. And so
that's awesome. Well, if you want to check out, we're running out our radio time on the radio, but we're going to continue this conversation on Facebook Live /The Story Corey Rosen. Please be sure to check out Don Grabowski and all of his gloves, and especially if you are dealing with some, like me, really sweaty hands or really cold hands, because I know people who it's either or. They have the most insanely hot sweaty hands of all time, or they have the insanely cold hands of death, right?
Of death.
Because that's what it feels like when they touch you. Like, oh my gosh, it's cold.
Yeah.
And if you even if you have medical problems, please be sure that this. I'm sure you're right. The compression, it does feel like a second skin.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for this product to be available to those people, because I know some people who would love to play music, but their fingers won't work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So please check out his stuff all in the description on Amazon. It's the Musicians Practice Glove. be sure if you want to follow us, check out. Hold on, let me get my thoughts straight. If you want to follow us, please, you can search up The Story, Corey Rosen, that's Cory, no E, Rosen, on all streaming platforms. You'll find us there on Spotify, Apple, wherever you do your podcast, you can find us there. And if you want to check out our upcoming guests and events, please do check out our Instagram at _story_podcast or facebook.com/The Story Corey Rosen. Right now, I'm going to play one of my original songs to transition back to the radio. This is called You Remain. I wrote this 2 years ago when everything started shutting down, and I realized that everything on earth is temporary, and there's only one thing that really remains, and that is God.
All right. Awesome.
With all that said, you can. This is You Remain by me.
When I am weak, can no longer speak, you are there, right beside me. When all hope is lost, and I can't bear the cost, you are there, paying it for me. And when things turn to dust, and there's nothing to trust, you are there, honest to me. Oh, it's clear who you're meant to be. You are my strength. You are my faith. When all things fade away, you remain. When I've been crying, everything is dying, you are there, breathing life into me. And all I do is fear, and nothing seems clear. You are there, comforting me. Oh, it's clear who you're meant to be. Oh, you are my strength. You are my faith. When all things fade away, you remain. So I'm gonna sing and shout and tell them all. That's when every kingdom falls. Yeah, you remain. So I'm gonna sing and shout and tell them all. That's when every kingdom falls. Yeah, you remain. So I'm gonna sing and shout and tell them all. That's when every kingdom falls. Yeah, you remain. So I'm gonna sing and shout and tell them all. That's when every kingdom falls. Yeah, you still remain. So I'm gonna sing and shout and tell them all. That's when every kingdom falls. Yeah, you still remain. So I'm gonna sing and shout and tell them all. That's when every kingdom falls. Yeah, you still remain. Yes, you are my strength. You are my faith. When all things fade away, you remain. You remain.
And that song was You Remain by me. If you want to check that out, please be sure to. I'm on Spotify. I'm on there. You can have that song there. with all that said, we're going to keep going on FacebookLive.com or Facebook Live at Facebook.com/The Story Corey Rosen. With all that said, for the radio, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'm going to get you guys back to the music. So I'm curious, how much work, what goes into ordering the product, having it, where is it shipped? Does it ship directly to you? What do you have to do then in that process?
Sure. Yep. So, I mean, this is the beauty of the current day with Amazon, is you can do a product and meet a lot of needs of people, whatever that might be. So here's the basic process. Yeah. So we found the product, found a supplier, a manufacturer, shipped to our home. And many times it's like 12 big boxes about this big, sometimes more like actually 18. What am I thinking? So, those boxes come in our garage, and pretty much I do have a storage unit just for a few things, but pretty much everything is in-house. And the whole lower level, parts of the lower level are dedicated to the business. Excuse me. So then it's a matter of sorting them out. And just checking and making sure that it's all there, and then once I separate them all out, I keep a certain amount just for some of the packaging that we might have to do for one-on-one sales. But by and large, all of the gloves then we take personally to a place in Lancaster that does the packaging.
That's nice.
So, I buy these Ziploc bags, and then I pay a printing company in Elizabethtown to make these header cards, and then the packaging company, all they have to do is insert the glove in and staple 2 staples,
and done.
Next, yeah. So it's an assembly line kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when we first started, this was now 6 years ago, coming up with design, I that's my hand, that's my Martin classical guitar, and I got a bedspread and hung it from the ceiling, and made sure it was time of day that it was good lighting, good natural lighting, and then took that picture, came up with the wording and so on, and submitted that to the packaging company in Towson, Maryland, and because I had seen them advertised, and Catalfa, in fact, is their name, and they then threw back to me a design, and kind of tweaked it and made it look good. And that's pretty much the design that we're using to today for a good 6 years now.
It looks like something you would see at Walmart.
Good.
It looks like something you would just see there.
Yeah. And in fact, this half guitar logo, I was on the train going to Philadelphia, and that was when I knew I had to come up with something interesting. And so I was trying all the different ways of trying to put the product into the guitar shape, and it just nothing worked. Like trying to put the letters around the, it's like that looks stupid. So I came up with that, and so then this packaging company in Towson, we would have to take the gloves, like these boxes of gloves, but only according to whatever the order that they were going to be packaging. So then I'd have to go pick them up, or we would meet halfway. But then I mentioned Rotary Club, which I can just, okay, well, all Rotary Club is we do tons of community service. We give a lot of money away, everything from homeless shelter to food bank, and a lot of service projects, painting around the town, cleaning up trash. But another big one is Rotary. Well, Rotary started in Chicago and about 100 years ago, and it was 4 very successful businessmen who rotated their weekly meeting from their office to office. So that's
why it's called Rotary.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a rotating meeting, location. And their first project was to provide public toilets, restrooms in the city of Chicago. So then it just totally blew up from there. It ended up going into 16 countries within a few years, and everything from clean water, sanitation, education, health and wellness, and the environment. Tons of any good cause you can think of. So it's a service club, and do a lot of great work. And like we have a golf event to raise money every year for the opioid crisis and for drug abuse prevention and so on. So at our Rotary Club meetings, we have guest speakers, and one of our guest speakers was the head of Occupational Development Center in Lancaster. And they work with people that have specific challenges who come in and find meaningful work and then get trained to possibly, just what is your potential? What other work can you find? Even, and that might mean you're going to leave our place and just to help develop them into meaningful work, meaningful occupations. And they do a lot of assembly line work. So that is who now does our packaging. And it's right, Lancaster, Martha Avenue. So we now take our whole shipment of gloves, all 18 boxes sometimes, and take them to that place, and they warehouse them for us. And I just simply have to email my contact there with how many gloves of each size and color we want on this production. And then when they're done, we pick them up, bring them to our small warehouse in our lower level of our home. And I have, a specific shelving system set up where we place all those. And then when it's time to do a shipment to Amazon warehouses, I'll, gather whatever the number is that we need to replenish. And with Amazon, you want, like for Amazon US, we'll replenish like every month. So you look at the analytics, all of, how many sold that the previous 30 days, and you come up with a good number of what to ship to the Amazon warehouse for fulfillment by Amazon, FBA. And then we do that for all the different countries as well. And so that's basically it. We have a shipping table in our lower level that we do all the preparing of the boxes and of the units. You have to put barcodes on each unit.
Wow.
That kind of thing. So that when it sells at the Amazon warehouse, the warehouse then has to have the barcode that they do for the whole, the picking and everything. That then they constantly are using the scanner and stuff. So it's really high tech. And I would love to visit an Amazon warehouse, but they never let you in.
Right, of course, yeah.
Even if you're a seller. I've tried it. I've actually
Really?
gone there and said, look, hey, I'm a seller. I have a product. You probably have our product here in this distribution center. Can you just show me?
That's what
Sorry, sir.
Yeah, but I love. I used to work in a factory as well, forklift driving, and the organization systems. Granted, at a smaller company can be sometimes messy, but for Amazon, I really wonder how precise and how what it looks like. I want to just sit there and watch, and see what like people watching, but.
Yeah.
I because I'm curious, just how does the machine run, right? I love industrial stuff. I love watching machines work and how they work. Like how it's made was a TV show back in the day where they showed you how stuff was made, like coins or whatever. And I was like, oh, I love that.
Yeah. Well, I have an assignment for you then. That's the teacher in me. Is go to the Amazon website. Like you're going to order something. And if you navigate around, they have videos of like the mechanism
Oh, do they?
of the factory. Yeah, I've seen it, and it's really fascinating. And like some, over maybe they have a drone or something looking down on the production
floor, right?
Yeah, so
it's crazy.
Check it out.
Some of those, I just saw a picture of like the biggest Amazon warehouse and it is huge. Like I was like, oh, that's nothing. But then I realized those dots on the screen were cars, and I was like, oh, okay.
That's funny. Yeah, they're constantly building new warehouses on 283. Everybody knows that. You know those colors,
right?
When you see
you
the
see
blue
that half
white.
smirk or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So it's huge.
I'm curious, how much does it? Because you had told me you had ordered 10 sample clubs, and then you went into a whole 5,000. How much did that cost?
It's not bad at all.
Really?
Yeah, because of the place it's coming from. And that's just kind of the way trade is right now. Is you protect the bottom line and finding it as reasonably the good quality, reasonable product for as little to pay as possible, and so it's significantly small, the cost of the glove, but the big part is all of the packaging cost, the handling, our time, with all getting the units, and then there's the checking to make sure that they didn't make the mistakes that we've had in the past, undersized, oversized in some cases, so that there's a lot of labor intensiveness, and then, all of the advertising to get for awareness so people know about it.
Right.
So in Amazon, they have something called pay-per-click. So you're actually paying when someone clicks on the screen. So it's called an impression. When your product appears on the screen, let's say someone is searching guitar strings on the Amazon, purchasing website, and then all these different products come up, and if you click on that product, then that
the buyer or the dealer,
the dealer pays whatever, and there's a bidding process where you can bid a high number, like $1.80, for someone to click on your product. And when you bid a higher number, it puts that product higher on the screen, and it makes it more visible, or a larger, little swatch, they call it. So you click on that, and and then that takes you to the product page, and you make your purchase. So it's a bidding thing, but you're paying for that.
Right.
So I mean, it many times, if I have to look at all the countries that we sell in, all of the Amazon sales that we've had, Amazon ends up getting easily like 40% of all sales on Amazon, and a big expense of that is the advertising.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Yeah, and there's the I forget what they call it, but even if you don't do any advertising, if you make a sale, I think they call it placement fee, and then there's another fee, referral fee. That's it, yeah. And so
right. Corporations get their money anyway.
They have to call it something, but then again, as Amazon says, we're totally exposing your product to all of our customers.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a weird, because they're also shipping them as well.
Right. Then there's the other expense, is there's the FBA, the fulfilled by Amazon cost. So when you add it all up, I mean, some countries it's 50%, some it's 60%, depending on how well the Amazon ads are being run. So there are companies that exist solely to manage your Amazon product and your Amazon ads. And so we have quite a number of employees who they do their own part, their own piece. So the advertising company, managing Amazon ads, we had a company doing just that, and then they started to get a great idea of, hey, why don't we get into full account management? But right around that same time, a company that's been doing this for a number of years contacted me and asked if we would be interested in having them, at a pretty high cost a month, be our Amazon account managers. And at this point, they're managing 6 of our countries. So, and the whole idea is I would really like to kind of step away a little and become
Right.
semi-retired.
Yeah, right.
Because really it has ended up being somewhat
Full-time,
full-time,
yeah.
and there's other stuff in life,
Right. Running a business is hard.
Yeah, and so fortunately I'm now able to step away, and they've taken over a lot of our operations, managing our Amazon accounts. But a cool thing that's happened is regarding personnel. I mean, my wife, she's very, very patient. She does, she helps a lot with preparing the units to send to Amazon warehouses. And with many times we'll have to do our own packaging if we're short for a week before we get more of the packaged units from our packaging company. I was approached, or did I? I have a good friend at Millersville University, Barry Addix, who is the head of the music industry, music business department. He and I have played a little. He's a great keyboard player, and we played early on, quite a while ago, mid-'90s maybe, something like that. But he's now on staff there at Millersville. He came right like the last 2 years that I was there before I retired and moved on. Anyway, so I found out that they, of course, they would like to get internships. So I then offered to bring an intern on to work with Musicians Practice Club with the company. Cecilia is our person who came on, and
Cecilia
she
Jinks?
was Cecilia Jinks. Do you know her?
Yeah, I do know her.
Get out. How?
Through LinkedIn, actually.
Okay.
Because I'm looking for a social media person as well.
Oh, all right.
Because it's
There you
hard to
go.
manage everything.
Okay, yeah, she's excellent. I mean, you saw on all the links, Spotify, TikTok, just tons of social media things going on. A lot of followers we have on Instagram and so on, and she's managing all that. And then she's learning now. Well, okay, so she was an intern, for a semester, and so good. It's like you're hired. So she's part-time, 10 hours a week, and she's managing now some of our Amazon countries, the ads. So she's learning the Amazon ads skills, the whole skill set involved, where someone who does learn that could eventually be employed full-time by these Amazon ad companies. A lot of them are based out of Toronto, Canada. That's like that's the hotbed of a lot of the Amazon management companies, Amazon ad management companies. So it's a whole career in and of itself. And I encourage every business department, and I've said this to Millersville, I said this to Elizabethtown College, which is really close to us, is train your business people to understand at least the basics of how Amazon works, because it's an incredible business model.
And not only that, but it is the industry standard, and it's going to be that for a while longer.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. So she's so pleasant, so perky, and so bubbly, and just a hard worker. And so, yeah. So, Celia, thank you if you're listening.
So I'm curious. A few questions about the glove itself. Is this machine washable?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But you don't want to use hot water because it could shrink.
Okay.
Yeah, and just, either air dry or just use a cool dry cycle. Yeah. And all those kind of directions are on the website. The FAQs.
FAQ, frequently asked questions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For another one is there are some players, like classical guitar players, because of their fingernails, but they have super sweaty hands. They want a glove on their picking hand. So can I cut the fingertips out? Yeah, absolutely. But the nature of woven nylon is it will fray. So find a safe place and
burn it.
Open flame, and just seal the threads. Yeah.
What's that? I guess it's also called fraying when you burn it.
Yeah.
That always confused me as a Boy Scout. They're like, I'm an Eagle Scout also.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
I was in scouting. I didn't get that far.
You're right. For those who don't know, stuff will fray, like rope will fray, aka undo itself. The strands will undo themselves. But to fix that, you have to fray them by using a lighter.
Yes.
Which makes no sense to me and very confusing. You would think they would be called fusing.
Oh yeah, that is a better word.
It would be a way better word than fraying, which is there are some English words that have over time flipped meaning completely.
Hmm.
And I don't understand why we haven't just gotten rid of one of the phrase.
You got me.
That's cool. So, you've also traveled the world.
Yeah.
Tell me what that was like.
Sure. So I'm Polish.
Oh, okay.
Grabowski.
Yeah.
I'm.
Is that how it's pronounced? Grabowski?
I'm sorry.
How is it pronounced?
Grabowski.
I haven't said it right. Okay.
And I'm a quarter Polish, but my father was pure Polish. Wait, no, I'm half Polish. What am I saying?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Our sons are quarter Polish. What am I? Okay, so been to Poland 3 times, in fact. First time, I went to Hungary first on a mission trip, and I took an upright bass, but it's a smaller one, a company called Palatino, I believe it is, and it's like a thinner body, full size string, length 42 inches, and it's electric, of course. And I was able to take it as a special carry-on. I was able to collapse the bridge and pack it carefully. So we went to in Hungary, Budapest, of course.
Right.
You should say. And we played out in the open field for gypsy people. And because many of the gypsy communities just have no idea about God in their life, and so we would play American jazz, and boy, they were so juiced, to come and hear that, and then the speaker would speak in Hungarian, and just to create relationships and friendships, and then have them come and visit them at their center and help meet their needs and whatever they are, from hunger to whatever the poverty level, and there's a whole interesting study of why they're gypsies. But then also we went down. I'm sorry.
What is gypsy?
Oh, a gypsy is a person totally like a nomad.
Nomad. That's what I thought.
They have no address. They don't have to pay tax, of course, because they're under the radar, and they have all these hiding places in the open country of Hungary.
Gotcha.
But we also then played downtown in the inner city, in the city, and created crowds. Hey, American jazz, let's go listen. And then the guy would speak, and once again, just to create a safe place of peace and wellness and caring, and it was just a great experience. So that was like a 2-week period, and it was through word of life, in fact.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Tolmash, Hungary. And then from there, I went to Poland to visit my relatives for the first time, meeting them in person. I was weeping. These people that knew my father, and being on the soil of my ancestors. And my grandfather came over over 100 years ago. And that there's that whole story there. And visiting to all the different all the different cities throughout the country, so there's a whole other story there without going into that. But as far as other performance opportunities, Wheatland Chorale and the Susquehanna Chorale merged. This is maybe 14 years ago, which gave me a chance to make music with my wife, Peggy, in Austria, Germany, Switzerland. So we had a chance to do a tour, like for a 10-day period, and that was just a great experience, singing in huge cathedrals.
Yeah.
And in just a wide variety of venues, and of course all of the touring and tourist stuff.
One of the things that I am very upset about, but it's past. But we were supposed to the LBC choir was supposed to tour Ireland. And we were gonna be in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day, and singing in St. Patrick's Cathedral of all places.
Yeah.
And guess what happened the day we were supposed to leave? COVID shut down.
Right then.
Right, it got canceled.
The beginning of it.
Yeah, it was the beginning of it.
So you were already over there.
No, we were. It was the day we were supposed to leave, and it got canceled.
I get it.
Right then.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I'll get over there someday. But I'm curious, what was some of the culture shocks that maybe you had that you didn't expect at all when you went over there?
Let's see. In Poland, probably just seeing a degree of need, especially in the city, and just people able to make do with very meager means, homes that still had straw roofs.
Really?
Roofs, yeah. And some of the roads were just so terrible.
Because they're so old.
Yeah, and this was back in '07, and they had joined the EU, which was a huge boost.
Right, of course.
So then, just 2 years later, on the second trip. So the first one I was alone, and then the second trip, Peggy went with me, and then a third trip. So each progressive trip, we saw
progression of the.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're talking, areas that there are like accidents all the time because people are in a hurry, like everywhere else.
And it's probably still damaged from World War II, if that's this.
Maybe.
Because I know that was like a thing in Ukraine. You can go around and see like bullet holes from World War II. Still
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Still like everywhere. I wonder if that's maybe a similar thing in Poland. They just never got around to it.
I never thought of that. But just for example, one lane each direction, and huge, massive trucks that take up more than that one lane.
Oh,
sorry, I bumped.
No, you're good.
That massive trucks, and like getting like that close, passing cars, and it, there's no allowance, there's no infrastructure, for these wide trucks speeding along, and like I said, there's accidents all the time. My one relative, while I was there, just got word he lost one of his friends in a car accident. It's whoa. But since the EU funnels money into the member countries, then European Union, right?
Right, yeah,
then they're now able to rebuild. So there was a progression in the next two visits that we saw. Cool. 4-lane highways finally, overpasses and networks of so it's like so heartening to see that kind of improvement.
That's awesome. In Germany, did you ever? Because I didn't know this, but Germany is a country of many languages, not just German. Because there's several types of German. What did you ever think of that?
I'm not aware of.
You weren't aware of that?
No, I had German in high school, so I was able to speak a little bit, to some of the locals. But but Germany, just beautiful.
Oh, I'm sure.
Land and just an amazing place, and really all of Europe and Poland, just as amazing. Some of the towns you feel like you're in any other European country, because it's just the old architecture buildings.
Yeah, I was saying some of them are like thousands of years
old.
Yeah,
built in the year 900.
Right, and you're like, what? Did you know Oxford University is older than the Aztec civilization? Like Oxford University in England, it was built in 1000 AD, and the Aztecs only got started around 1100s.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's why their motto is tradition.
Yeah, I guess so. That is news to me. Whoa.
Yeah. So, and another thing about Europe is I'm sure it might have been shocking to how easy it was to travel from state to state, country to country.
Oh yeah.
Because like you can drive for 3 hours in the U.S. and definitely still be in the U.S. right? I wonder what's the max amount of time you can drive in a country going in a straight line and still stay in that country.
Yeah, that's a great question. Europe is much smaller than you realize, unless you actually superimpose a map of Europe
on the U.S.
Yeah.
And the U.S. is still bigger.
Way bigger. Oh, yeah.
I saw the U.K. was about the size of Michigan, and I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's small.
That sounds right. Yeah. And then to just jump on a plane, it's really inexpensive to like fly from Amsterdam to Paris, for example.
Right.
Because we did that. Our son still is over. He was in Amsterdam for 2 years. He's an accountant working for a big accounting company, and then he was given opportunities now in Hong Kong. So, but when he was in Amsterdam, he could when we visited him there, we spent a weekend in Paris, and we would be there in like an hour, for $80 US each way.
It's crazy to me. You could take a train, or just drive, and within a few hours be in a completely different culture, completely different language, completely different history, and it's all just there. And especially with the EU, where you don't have to have a passport to get into any country.
Right.
You can just go. If granted, if you're an American, you have to have a passport. But in the EU, you can just travel.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy. Like I like watching videos of people who do like hitchhiking and stuff like that. Because I just find this stuff interesting as well.
Yeah, on the Travel Channel.
On like Travel Channel,
Yeah.
and it's crazy. Somebody will be in Switzerland, being like, I need to go to Italy or Greece, and there will be people coming from Germany going back to Greece, and it's like, what? And that, like, imagine if you were on the road in Maryland, and you're like, I'm trying to go to Mexico, and someone from Canada, that's not gonna happen. It's trying to go to Mexico. It's not gonna happen ever, most likely.
Oh, especially now.
Right, and so that's just mind-boggling to me that it's so connected, and thank God it is, because beforehand it was a mess. That's awesome. So I'm curious, going back to your Christian roots, how does one maintain their faith in such a secular world that we live in? What are some of the choices you have to make? What are some of the how has your faith been challenged, if at all, through it all?
Number one is just be able to let go of things from the past and just know, that looking back, there was a reason, there was a plan for that, and current hardships, just to, lift up and see it as a sacrifice to that. I lay that at your feet, Lord. That this, I have to just let that go and just trust you, and not let all the noise around us totally bombard us. And kind of like people love going to the beach and hearing the roar of the ocean. And I'll never forget, this is one of the messages at LCBC. Jason, amazing communicator, and he was saying that when you're totally all the noise and all of the distractions around you, if you sit on the beach and just listen to the roar of the ocean, it's equivalent, to God's roaring at you. Be still, know I am God. All is well. I got this. You're in my hand, and it's just comforting, and just to be able to just drown out all the distractions and just focus on the most important thing, and encouraging others to do the same.
And another one I'll add on to that is taking care of yourself. There's one of my most favorite Bible stories. I can't remember the prophet. It's either Elijah or Elisha. But he was angry at God, or he was just angry at the people of Israel, and angry. And God told him, listen, a basic to the effect of, go eat and take a nap. And he was all better afterwards.
That's an interesting, simple piece of advice.
And I mean, it's how much, how little do we take care of ourselves when we're all pent up, Because we get so angry or so emotional that we forget, oh, I haven't slept in a long time, or oh, I haven't eaten since yesterday. Because I'm sure as a musician, going at it all the time, or even as a business person, you realize, oh my gosh, it's 2:00 in the morning, or especially as a college student, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I haven't eaten since this morning. And you don't feel it because you're just in the process all the time.
Yeah, that'll change as you get older.
Oh, I'm sure.
I haven't experienced that for a while.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
But so you also work with NAMI. Tell me about NAMI.
Sure. National Alliance on Mental Illness. I have two brothers that have had, diagnoses of, pretty severe bipolar, manic depressive. 1 hour you're real high, you're going to rebuild a bridge,
Right.
you're going to write the biggest hit song possible. And a lot of mental illness ends up hitting a lot of the musician community. Yeah. I've seen firsthand. I don't want to just oversimplify or judge or anything, but I've seen it.
It happens. If anybody knows any music history, you know of all the problems that musicians go through, no matter what happens to them.
Or any art.
Or any art, yeah.
Yeah, the art community.
The art community, yes.
Say, artistic people, yeah. So, and then unfortunately, the behavioral health hit one of our sons, to the point that he's disabled, really, at this point. And it's OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and it's of a very, very difficult kind that he lacks insight into effectiveness of exposure response prevention therapy. It's the gold standard of treating OCD, where like right now, if I was bothered, let's say, by this, there's an object, or this glove package. If I have that hanging over the edge,
can't have that.
And some people, that would just drive them crazy. They wouldn't be able to talk. They wouldn't be able to do a thing.
Have you ever seen Monk?
That's exactly
what you're talking about.
What it is, yeah. So an exposure response prevention therapy would be, if I had this issue, would be we continue our conversation, and I shove it aside. I put it in the back seat. You're not driving my car. I'm driving my car. You're in the back seat. Get out of my face. Okay, that's just like a very, very simple,
right? Of course,
example of the kind of stuff that our son unfortunately isn't quite ready for. So we've been dealing with this for 18 years, in and out of different, providers, and it's been a tough road. But one of the good things is we've been able to coach other people with, family, friends, we just say loved one who, is in a rough patch, whatever it is, bipolar, depression, OCD, a wide variety, borderline personality disorder. So we got involved with National Alliance on Mental Illness back in around 2003, when after a while we didn't know where to turn, and got a lot of good help, resources, and then found out, and there were some things that worked, but it just progressed. Well, it digressed with our son. But we're hopeful. There are definitely some new inroads that have been happening. But back to the organization, we then I became involved on the board, treasurer of our Lancaster County NAMI, and it's an outreach. We have a support group every month on the second Tuesday. And it's an opportunity for people who have no idea where to turn with their loved one who is saying strange things, like aliens are telling me at night to
right, people having visions,
blank, and we've all heard this in the news, those kind of things happening, and police now are getting good training. It's called crisis intervention training, CIT, where they're getting training to know how to speak with that person and how to deal with them. They're probably not going to be violent, unless provoked, and you don't want to trigger issues. So NAMI's all about identifying needs and funneling money into areas that need addressed to assist families in crisis, and to understand what numbers to call, those sort of things, crisis intervention number, and 211, or is it 411 has been a number to call. And, just so these are all things that are ways of being part of change. And that's some of the good that's come out of having our son that's been struggling, to be able to help others in similar situations find some resources and some answers.
And where can they find that? Is there a website or a building?
Sure, NAMI.org, NAMI.org, and then navigate to find a location near you, and then click Pennsylvania, and then you'll see the list of all the counties, and you'll see Lancaster County, and And my email address is actually the contact person at this point. But we're doing some revamping as we're growing and expanding our services and opportunities for help. But it's a great resource, and right now an online Zoom support group that we have to connect people, caregivers with other caregivers who've been there. And number one, they realize, I'm not alone in this. Number two, it's not your fault if you have a loved one who's struggling.
There's when I have a story related to mental illness, and when my mother was the closest thing in the life to me, right? I was a complete mother's boy, and I wanted to become a scientist just like her. And even when she taught at a different school than I went to, so whenever my school was off, I'd go over to her science lab room and create like the roller coasters out of the tubing or whatever. And I even got to dissect the sheep's brain, which I didn't get to do at my school. So because there's like classic dissecting a frog, I was like, that's never been my experience. But I dissected the sheep's brain, and that was a cool thing.
Yeah.
But so when she passed away, completely out of the blue, it was a Sunday morning, and my grandmother had this weird feeling that she was gonna have another heart. She's had 3, so I was like, okay, we're gonna trust that she knows her, what's gonna happen. So she went to the hospital, and we were just playing outside, and then all of a sudden we see an ambulance, and the kid game is where's the ambulance gonna stop this time? Yeah. And then it stopped in front of my house, and I'm like,
Corey.
oh no, and I saw my mother go out on a stretcher, and that was the. I don't remember the last time I saw her alive. But
how old were you, did you say?
12, I do believe. But so she had died in her sleep of a heart attack at 40 years old.
Oh boy, it's young.
That's so young, out of nowhere, completely out of nowhere.
Oh my.
And but so what happened is that I started to create a phobia of science, because I had thought, my mother was a scientist. She died because of science. So, like a completely irrational train of thought, right? And I understand that, but that's what happened. So over the course of time, I started creating this obsessive OCD where if I went into a science room, touched anything related to science, I was dirty and I needed to be cleaned. So I'd wash my hands obsessively. I would have different piles of clothes, and my grandmother and my dad will remember this because I had my science day and then my normal clothes where I could actually be comfortable in. But the science clothes, I was always dirty. I had to keep my hands out like this, so at least my hands were clean, right? So I could like touch my face and hair or whatever. And so it got to the point where I'm keeping this hidden from my parents. They don't know what's going on. Because it's a weird thing, right? It's weird, and I acknowledge that, but it's just the way my brain couldn't not do that. You know what I mean? And it got to the point where we have a family friend is a cleaning lady, so she cleans our house every now and then, and she decided to reorganize my room.
Oh, that means the contaminated clothing was touching the non-contaminated.
Everything became contaminated, and all of my like hiking stuff and I couldn't use it anymore because it was dirty and I couldn't clean it. Wow. And I had like a whole mental breakdown. I was like,
sure.
And so going to therapy and all that jazz. I did do that.
So you did seek help. Good for you.
Well, they kind of made me do it.
Okay.
But
you complied.
I complied. It didn't work the best way for me, so I kind of just let it go. But I've realized over time it's gotten less and less. I can actually go into the science room and be fine. I like watching topics about science now, which I love to do because I wanted to be a zookeeper when I grew up. So,
okay.
But because that happened, now I'm a musician.
That's a different kind of zookeeper sometimes.
Yeah, right, exactly. Herding cats, musicians.
But OCD will never tell you the truth. It will always be there. But you have to actually be able to choose, like I said, to not have it be the driver, but put it in the back seat.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'm not I'm not masochistic because I wouldn't force myself into a science room just for the heck of it.
Sure.
But over time, it just got less and less. Probably as my because I bottled up my feelings a lot too, so it probably had some sort of effect.
Okay. Yeah. But the obsession, of course, you were obsessed with that idea.
Yeah.
And then you were compelled. That's the compulsion part. Compelled to do
something,
like the separation of things and not touch this and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it got really bad because back then, hand sanitizer wasn't as quote unquote healthy,
Okay,
right?
Sure.
It wouldn't be moisturizing. So
Yeah.
it got to the point where my hands were so cracked up like the
Oh, yeah.
desert. I
Yeah.
could squeeze my hand and see blood ooze out of it.
my.
Yeah, it was that bad.
And what OCD will tell you is, I washed my hands for the 10th time. What if I didn't get them clean enough? I'll just do it one more time. OCD will say, you want to do it just one more time. Okay. And then, but don't you think you want to do it one more time?
Right, yeah.
And you just totally get stuck. And that is the liar of OCD, telling you that. And yeah, and that's where the exposure response therapy comes in. And there's an amazing every Wednesday night, 8:00. There's a Q&A at 8:00 Eastern time. Comes out of Chicago, so 7:00 Central. Patrick McGrath, Dr. McGrath, is the authority, the expert on OCD. And you call in with your question, and the guy just has incredible answers, and it's just so much insight. He wrote a book called the OCD Answer Book. And anybody who's dealing with it has been so helpful for us. All the different levels of treatment that we have sought out has been of huge. That book has given so many great dialogues and other options as we converse with the professional, because many of the professionals are finding new things out about OCD.
Yeah.
But Patrick McGrath then met with us online. It took 6 weeks, but we were able to connect with him, and of great help. And so that's one of the new inroads, some things he suggested. And then there are therapists that are really, really excellent at doing the exposure response prevention, but they have to prepare the person. And that's where we are now, is preparing our son for this particular kind of treatment to get him ready then to go into a treatment center, a residential program, maybe for 2 months. But guess what? We tried that. We went up to Wisconsin, went to Chicago, thousands of dollars with rent-a-cars and hotels and everything, but he wasn't ready for that treatment program. So there's another thing, if anybody's listening, just to make sure that the person, the loved one that you have dealing with that, just make sure that before you go to all that effort like we did, we were just desperate to get him somewhere that we thought could fix him, but he didn't want it bad enough.
Yeah, it's no matter how much you want to fix somebody, they have to be ready for it, and that's the thing for like rehab all across the board of alcoholics or drug substance. They have to be ready for it. Because if you're gonna, and that's probably why the therapy didn't work for me. I was just not ready for it, and I'm an introvert anyway. So having a stranger come over and ask me all these deep questions, I just didn't give him anything. But it's gotten a lot better for me. Granted, COVID kind of heightened it a bit.
Heightened it. There's a good word for it.
I use hand sanitizer now when I shake people's hands, but
I understand.
I feel like that's like a normal thing almost. So.
Yeah, just to make sure.
But it's not like I do it upset. Like I have control over it. Put it that way. I have. It's not driving my forward. I can still use my phone or whatever after I shake someone's hand. Before then I couldn't. But now I can, and it's okay.
Like, what would happen if I took my shoe off right now?
That's fine.
And I licked the bottom of it.
I wouldn't. Oh, that's you, right? That's not me.
But, okay, so the point I'm making, and there's another thing is, okay, I'm going to prove that if I do it, nothing terrible is going to happen. I'll be fine. I'll live. I won't get sick. I'll call you in 3 days, let you know nothing bad happened. That's just another example of exposure response therapy. Is I'll show you. And then if you try it, you meaning if a person, not you, Corey, but then you try it and find out, and you have to live with that compulsion, with that obsession, creating a compulsion. Live with it and find out it's nothing. It's a lie.
And just
get in the back seat.
Yeah, reconnecting brain patterns, right?
I guess. I don't know.
Well, that's what they were like, rewiring your brain to accept something is okay versus not, and that it's because it's a habit, right? It's a forced habit, but it's a habit, right?
It's a habit. It's even an emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard of it called that as well.
Yeah. So you have to rewire your brain in order for it to go away, for you to have power over it, because that's a practice in of itself. You don't just one day have control over it. It's a process.
Right.
And obviously I'm still not done with it yet. Sure. And I've heard that once one addiction goes away, it finds places to gravitate to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a voracious animal, OCD, and it's hungry and it wants to eat you for lunch. Basically. Yeah. I've heard it, Patrick put it that way. In fact, now there's the medication side. There are some excellent medications these days. Clomipramine is a great one, and Vraylar, and so there's definitely other
see your
other
doctor.
options.
Go see your doctor.
See your psychiatrist. But make sure that they know the OCD medications that are available, because they're developing new ones all the time, naturally.
Yeah, and I can't stress this enough. If you are a person that struggles with this, be open with your doctor. If you don't trust your doctor, you need a new doctor.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the purpose of going to the doctor, is to tell them all your vulnerable stuff. And that can get very embarrassing sometimes. And but how are you going to get better if a medical professional doesn't know about it? You're just gonna you're kind of wasting your money and insurance. Really. Take full benefit of your doctors, your physicians, your therapists. You're literally paying them. It's and it's their job, right? And they have probably dealt with things much deeper than maybe what you have. And you know what? They're probably up for the challenge. They went to college for that. They love helping, and they're gonna do the best for you.
And something for the faith community is, if you've got a mental illness or you have a loved one who does, it's not that they lack faith.
It's not that they lack faith.
It's not that they lack character. And the same is true of somebody addicted to drugs, because it's possible, it's not always the case, but it's possible that they're self-medicating a mental illness, and there's treatment. It doesn't have to be this way. And then you find the faith component once you start feeling well, and it's just a beautiful thing.
It's almost, you're right, because it's almost been kind of a taboo if you're a Christian and you have some sort of addiction or mental illness. Oh, you have the devil in you. You need to repent.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, no, you're just a human who's everyone is fallen, and everyone is not going to be perfect. You can't say that's not helpful at all. No. That's gonna ruin that person's psyche.
It's gonna make it worse.
It's gonna make it so much worse. They're gonna want to not be a part of you. Right. That leads to church hurt. That leads to falling further away, spiraling deeper, and they're gonna clam up about it, because they're gonna be like, oh, they're gonna critique me, or they're gonna say I'm of the devil. That's not. As Christians, we're told to love each other as we would love ourselves. Would you, if you had a mental illness, would you tell yourself that, oh, I'm a demon? Probably not.
Or just shake it off.
Or just deal with it.
And there's a lot of cultural taboos with that, too. Oh my goodness, where some people, it's my nerves.
Right, of course.
Or I'm just going through this and that, and just trying to explain it away. But they're
just
not
getting
really,
excuses.
They're not addressing the core issue. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be totally different.
There's some things that I don't mean to say it's not normal, but it's you don't have to. This doesn't have to be your life, right? Things can
right.
change. Things can get better. Yeah, some things you have to live with, but some things you don't.
But back to music, that's where music can be
Yeah.
therapy. And of course, there's a whole
Whole
career
off that.
and a whole subject and discipline, music therapy. A lot of, many music schools have that. If they haven't, they're getting it right now as we speak. And then, when you apply all of treatment, the therapy, if medication is indicated, and then the music making suddenly can just be even a greater thing. Now, wrong medications can numb,
hinder.
and hinder the music making process. So
Talk to your
it's
doctor,
just finding
sure.
balance. It could be years before you find that balance. So.
Yeah. So we're kind of rounding out our time here. So I have some general questions I like to ask a lot of people.
Okay.
So as a teacher, what are some mistakes you've seen from students or other educators, and what is some advice you could give to curtail that?
Whoa. Let's see. Don't use a electronic device in class, students. Put it away.
Unless it's like a laptop or
Well,
Right.
and if you're clear all the distractions from your in your class setting. Of course, that's one thing. Don't assume anything. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask.
yeah.
Don't ever hesitate.
Once again, your teachers are being paid to do that.
Yeah, and don't be afraid that
Right.
you're the only one going to be appearing dumb if you ask it, because
So many other people.
someone else had that same question but was not bold
afraid,
enough to
yeah.
ask. Yeah, and just realize, high school is just this tiny little speck that exists in your life. It's not everything. You'll get out of it. You'll be fine. And realize there's so much more out there,
more.
but you can't understand that when you're in it.
Of course. Well, and here's the funny thing: like your time perception progresses as you age. This was fascinating to me. But younger kids, they've only lived, 5, 6, 10 plus years. I've noticed this as I've grown older. Every day is passing by like this, and I remember sitting in class like, oh my gosh, when is this gonna end?
Yeah.
And for kids or for teens or college students even, you got to realize that this is a short, no matter how long it feels. By the time you're 40, 50, you're going to look back like, wow, that was not a lot of time at all. I just realized how it's been 5 years since I've been in high school, and I still remember it like yesterday. I'm like, wow, time is gone.
And it'll stick with you.
For sure.
It'll still be fresh, Just like, I think like as I'm getting older, like the Billy Joel song is, "When I wore a younger man's clothes." I'm still the same person, but I still feel that youngness, but I just, now I'm wearing older man's clothes, but I'm still that kid inside.
Yeah. And it's important to never lose that inner child, because that's what makes life interesting.
Yeah,
right?
being inquisitive, always willing
Curious.
to learn, wanting to learn, and not being arrogant to think you know it all, or
And being willing to accept critique, hardships, and being you're right, inquisitive, curious,
and be humble.
be humble.
It's huge. It's a gift to be simple, gift to be free, just like the famous song, "'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free." And it's a freedom in being humble, because you never have to try to prove anything. You just, hey, I don't know it all, and I want to learn. Please help me learn, and to approach everybody as someone that you will share and teach each other. And that's helpful.
Yeah. So, what is one thing that you know now that you wish you had known when you first started? This can be regarding to teaching, music, business.
Boy, I have no idea how to answer that. I think I'm kind of starting to fade here. One thing I know now, probably use for hearing, use earplugs sooner, because I played in a lot of bands and cymbals and everything, and I just wonder if I have, I do have hearing loss for sure, and I just wonder how things would be. So right away,
Protect your ears.
Yeah, protect your ears whatever you're doing, mowing.
Right, yeah.
From that to if you're a musician gigging, there's
Marching band.
And marching.
I was in a drum line, and I marched a glockenspiel actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Wow.
I wasn't. They had a marching set, not like in pit, but you would attach it to your shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of my higher end stuff is fizzling out because it's so high and tingly, right?
Yeah,
and then I have you have high school snare drummers whack, 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 all behind you.
Oh yeah.
The
higher partials, the overtones that have been lost. That's my case. Oh yeah.
So definitely where and you can get them at Guitar Center. There's the cheap ones like $5 to get like
they filter the sound. The sound pressure isn't as great, but you still get the frequencies that you need.
Yeah, and then there's the higher quality ones that you can like actually change the decibel intake, which are really nice.
Okay.
I bought a pair of those at Guitar Center, like $40.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, you can still hear everybody talking. It's just a little bit quieter, and it doesn't hurt anymore to be in a spot in a live audience where things are loud.
Right.
So I'm curious, what was one of the you talked about traveling, working for the theater that did Broadway shows. What was it like to work with some of those high quality actors, actresses?
Yeah. So we would show. This is Hershey Theater specifically.
Yeah.
So these are traveling Broadway shows. So I wasn't going to Broadway.
Right.
So being a gigging bass player in the area for decades, you get all these connections. So the guy that was hiring musicians, I had played with a number of times, and then he offered me the job of whenever there's a touring company. And I would have to coordinate that with my teaching schedule, of course, but it ended up, working quite well. I would maybe just have to take one day. We get personal days. I was able to take that maybe a full day, and that would just be like on a Tuesday, for example. So we show up at 10 o'clock, load in, get everything set up, and then you rehearse with the pit for the show. Like we did Fiddler on the Roof, the touring group, Grand Hotel, Peter Pan, Kathy Rigby was Peter Pan. What other show? Well, okay, you get the idea. Right. So, and you have to be able to read like your life depended on it.
Yeah,
read
right.
Music, because your gig depended on it. Yep. So then we'd rehearse with the pit, just touching up just basic stuff, and then break for lunch, and then by 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, we would then have the rehearsal. They had specific spots, having done it many times from maybe they were coming from Vegas or they were coming from the West Coast or who knows where. And then, or Atlantic City. And then you would run specific spots and sound check and everything. And then by 4 o'clock, get dinner, settle in, and then curtain at
That's high pace.
7:30 or something like that. It's Tuesday night all the way to Saturday night.
Wow.
Yeah. So being evenings then, I would teach during the day and then play at night. That was, I think, before I taught at Millersville, if I remember right. Yeah, because Millersville was one night a week, and it might have been at the same time for a couple years. Yeah, so that was just great. Some of the musicians I played with, were connected with a lot of really, very
world class,
very well known, musicians, and the stories they would share, and and then the people on stage, just the amazing talent that was there, and getting to just meet them and say hi, and they were and often so humble, thank you so much for your time, and even though we were getting paid pretty well, but still, they were very humble about that, and glad we were there.
I'm curious. Was balancing your music and job, versus your family life, was that ever a challenge for you?
Not at all, because the boys were young, and they'd be in bed, not long after I would leave for the gig. We were living above Littis at the time, and it was only about a half hour to Hershey, and then we moved to Elizabethtown, and I think I did a few shows there, and that's even closer.
Right.
But no, there was no problem there.
That's good. My dad, he was a gigging local drummer.
Yeah.
He'd have to go to Virginia, and that's probably why I became more of a mama's boy anyway, because my dad was never around.
Farther distances.
Not to say that he was a absent father. He was very much there, especially when I was in trouble.
You're right.
But because he woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go. He's also legally blind.
Oh, wow.
He's got a few problems.
Okay.
So he would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to work. He makes works for Blind Industries, and they provide opportunities for the blind to work.
Oh, wow.
And so they make clothes for the military. And so he would be gone by 5 o'clock, and sometimes I'd wake up and catch him and pray with him before he left.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
because I somehow I got up. I don't know. I'm a very light sleeper,
Okay.
so that must have been it.
Yeah.
And I'd wander out, and we'd pray, and then he'd leave, and then I go into the mother's room and snuggle with my mother.
Oh, yeah.
So I do, but sometimes he wouldn't get back until 5 o'clock, and then that's usually when you have to get ready to go pack out for a gig,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was just always gone, and sometimes it's weird. I don't have any real memories of me and my dad.
Wow.
And
He's still living.
he's still living.
Like
Yeah,
you
he's
said,
oh
yeah.
yeah. But as a child, I can remember some fishing trips. But that's I see some pictures with me and we went to Six Flags all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember me and my mom being there, but I see pictures of it now, and it's like, oh, my dad was there too.
Well, he was often probably behind the camera.
Well, no, he was in the pictures with us.
Oh, right. Yeah, you said.
So I was like, that's interesting how that works almost. You'd think that would be a core memory of your dad.
Sure.
But so I'm always thinking ahead. I want to be very careful about intentional. Put it that way, with hanging out with the kids.
That's good.
So one last question: as a Christian, what is worship to you? How would you define it?
Oh, declaring his worth. Totally being able to wipe everything away, the distractions, and just open your hands up to him, and just release all concerns and care, and just acknowledge I am totally overwhelmed at how good you have been and how much you love me, and with things that are currently happening, it's all for a reason, and I give it all to you and worship you in no matter what, because then everything that are those shadows, it suddenly becomes a light. It's lit and no longer a shadow, but it's something that could be for my benefit.
Well, with that said, this has been the Story Podcast with Don Grabowski. Please be sure to check him out on his links, the musicianslive.org.
Right.
And his link tree is the Practice Musician's Glove. Check out his products. You also do, you can check him out. Go see him at LCBC.
Yeah. Come to a gathering.
LCBC does some wonderful stuff. I've been meaning to get out there more because there's just so many churches, though.
Of course.
But with all that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Tomorrow I have a guest, Kat Brennan. She's a alumni of LBC, if I remember correctly. And she'll be on here tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. be sure to check that out. She's a live production technician, so you get to learning all that stuff because that's a whole beast in of itself, right? There's the musicians and then there's the electricians that make it sound good.
That'll be fascinating.
Yeah. If you want to support us, like, comment, share with your friends. You find us anywhere. Search The Story, Corey Rosen, Cory, no E, Rosen. And if you want to be up to date on all of our upcoming guests and events, please check out our Instagram at _story_podcast or our Facebook, facebook.com/story, The Story Corey Rosen. With all that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.